Hello, I'm the Resolute Cartographer, and this is the 8th video in my Other Great Games series, and today we're looking at V Rising. This is a base building, vampire sim, semi-ARPG. I know that's not the most clear description, but I'll do what I can to clear that up here in a minute. V Rising is being developed and published by Stunlock Studios. It is currently in early access as of August 2023. I've been playing it off and on since the holiday season of 2022. The game is playable on private and public servers. In private you can play alone or with friends. I don't have experience with public servers, but they include a PvP experience. I've not experienced the PvP, so I can't share anything on that, but I've thoroughly enjoyed playing a hybrid solo co-op experience on my private server, aka my computer. The concept of V Rising, which is explained in the intro video, is that vampires once ruled the world until they were overthrown by humanity. You play a vampire who has been in hibernation for centuries and has determined that it's time to rise and reclaim what has been taken from you. In order to reclaim your power, there are 3 loops you'll have to engage in: crafting gear, building your castle, and hunting bosses. Player level in this game is entirely gear-based. If you take off all your armor and weapons, you're as harmless as, well, not a flea, but you get what I mean. As you craft better gear, you raise your gear level, your health, your killing power, etc. In order to craft that gear, you're going to need workbenches. While you can start making basic gear right off the bat with your bare hands, to craft better gear and the materials that make that gear, you're going to need workbenches. This is where building your castle comes in. The castle isn't just your home, it's your gear production facility. In order to build new workbenches though, you're going to need to learn how, and that comes from killing bosses. And there's the 3 loops. Build gear that allows you to kill the boss to gain new spells and recipes, use those recipes to build your castle, use your castle to build better gear so that you can kill the next boss, and on it goes. You start the game in a decrepit crypt with nothing. You begin your return to power by crafting weapons from the bones of skeletons. Once you've done this, you emerge into Farbane Woods, where you can start using deer, bear, and wolf pelts to make some basic armor. Along with this, you get to drink your first fresh blood in hundreds of years. I'll explain the blood mechanic in a minute, but for now, let's move on. With the basic armor on, it's time to start building your castle. The first thing you'll build is a castle heart, a very literal name for what we're talking about. Your castle is itself vampiric, and it requires blood to keep it from breaking down. Once you've built your castle heart and fed it some blood, you'll start building your first refining machines, grinders, and sawmills. These pieces of equipment turn wood and stone into planks and stone bricks, both of which are necessary for the construction of a proper castle. To harvest that wood and stone, you'll need tools, or really weapons, because you use them both for combat and for resource harvesting. There are swords, axes, great swords, scythes, slashers, crossbows, and pistols. Each of these weapon types has different bonuses, such as the swords and slashers damaging vegetation 25% more, the axes and greatswords damaging wood 25% more, maces damaging stone 25% more, spears dealing 25% more damage to creatures, and scythes dealing 25% more damage to undead. Each type of weapon has its own special attacks as well, and at higher levels you can impart impressive effects to the weapons to improve those special attacks, but we'll talk about that when we tour my castle. With that said on weapons, let's get back to starting the castle. To build your first room, you'll collect the resources you need, wood with an axe and stone with a mace. Once you've got a stack or 2 of those materials, you feed them into the sawmill and grinder and wait for them to be converted into planks and bricks. While you wait, you may as well get more raw materials. You're gonna need them. I should mention at this point that this game requires material grinding. It gets more efficient and easier as you go along, but it never goes away completely. Anyway, once you've got the bricks and planks you'll need, you'll construct your first room of your castle. This room gives you shelter from the sun and from anything that happens to roam by your castle. With that first room built, it's time to start building more rooms. While you could build just one big room as your castle, V Rising has bonus mechanics that make building specialized rooms important. To date, the rooms with bonuses include a workshop, a forge, a tailoring room, an alchemy laboratory, a library, a jewel crafting chamber, a crypt, and a prison. What I mean by bonuses is that the machines you'll build to refine materials and craft your gear get a 25% reduction in production time by being indoors, and a 25% reduction in the required resources for the recipes when in the proper room. What defines the proper room is the flooring of that room. To clarify what I mean here, the first sawmill you build will be outdoors by the simple fact that you can't even build a castle until you have planks produced from the sawmill. Once you build your first room and place the sawmill inside, the production time for turning lumber into planks goes from 20 seconds to 15 seconds. Then, once you build a workshop by creating a separate room and giving it a workshop floor, the number of pieces of lumber required to make that same plank decreases from 20 to 15. That's obviously a big improvement, especially when you consider how much that saves you on raw materials long term. Many of those rooms that I listed are obvious in their purpose, aside from the library, prison, and crypt, so let's talk about them. The library is the home of research. While the vital recipes required to progress come from killing bosses, other recipes have to be found as loot and researched, or researched from raw research materials. Both of these methods of research take place in the library. The recipes you research in the library range from cosmetics to armor and weapon improvements, consumables, and even to the flooring that makes rooms more efficient. There are currently 3 research stations that can be built: the research desk, the study, and the Athenaeum. Recipes are tied to different tiers of research station, and the raw research materials are as well. In terms of raw research materials, the research desk has paper, the study uses scrolls, while the Athenaeum uses schematics. The places to collect these materials also scale with level, i.e. lower level areas supply paper, mid-tier areas supply scrolls, and the highest level areas supply schematics. You can also use the paper press in the library to convert lower level materials to higher level materials with the addition of another resource: thread for paper to scrolls, tech scrap for scrolls to schematics. That details the library, so let's talk about the prison and crypt. Before we cover those 2 rooms, we need to get to why they're important. Blood. This orb at the center of the screen is your blood reserve. It has the capacity that ranges from 0 to 10. If that reaches 0, you're a vampire starving to death. You start to die. To refill your blood reserve, you need to drink blood, whatever blood you can get your hands on. That said, blood has both type and quality. Animals have different blood from humans, and even different humans have different types, while quality ranges from 0 to 100%. There are currently 7 types of blood: creature, rogue, warrior, brute, scholar, worker, and mutant. Each of these different types of blood offers different bonuses. How much of those bonuses you get is dependent on the quality of the blood, with the higher quality blood providing more bonuses specific to the blood type. So again, you simply need blood to survive. Quality and type don't matter to survival. In fact, if you're about to die, you can consume a heart to gain some blood that's of the 8th type, frail. I didn't list this type before because it doesn't have bonuses. It's literally just enough to keep you alive. So you might be asking, what does blood have to do with the prison and a crypt? For a vampire, it's very relevant. V-Rising allows you to build a following of up to 18 servants. These servants don't run around with you fighting at your side, but they can defend your castle, and more importantly, you can send them on missions to collect resources for you. So how does one obtain servants? After nearly killing an enemy, one mesmerizes a potential servant and brings them back to the castle. One then brings the mesmerized being to the crypt, where a servant's casket is prepared and waiting. After a conversion process, the servant is ready for work. Now the servants are just like player characters. Their strength is based almost entirely on their gear, so for better servants, one has to give them better gear. Along with this, the higher quality blood of the servant, the stronger the servant will be. Once you've got a servant, you can use your castle throne to send them on missions to potential resource collection sites. The sites they can safely collect from depends on the gear and blood quality of the servant, so don't send a poorly equipped servant to a site where they'll be killed. If they are killed, don't worry, you can simply revive them with some blood, but keep in mind that if they die, they don't return loot, so a trip is wasted. That covers the crypt, but what about the prison, right? Well, when bringing a mesmerized person back to your castle, one can instead place that individual inside a prison cell, and from then on, draw blood from them so long as they're kept alive and as content as possible. Personally, I've got 3 prisoners at all times: a rogue, a nun, and a farmer, all with high quality blood. To keep them alive, I have to make sure their health is up by feeding them fish or rats so that they don't die when I'm taking their blood. Then I keep their misery low so that they don't die from a single feeding. The prison also serves as a temporary holding facility for potential servants if you craft an item called Dusk Collar. Crafted in sets of 5 in the alchemy lab, this item calls flocks of bats to carry mesmerized individuals back to any available prison cells within your castle. From there, they can be mesmerized and taken to a crypt for conversion. With the game loops and the castle defined, let's talk about the world in which you'll be running those loops and building your castle. There are currently 6 visually distinct areas in the game. At the southern end of the map, there's Farbane Woods. This area is filled with wild animals, bandits, and some undead enemies. North of that, towards the center of the map, lies the Dunley Farmlands, filled with farms, towns, and mines. The enemies here are primarily militiamen and farmers, with a few animals and some undead thrown in. To the east of there lies the Hallowed Mountains, a snowy area primarily filled with wild animals. To the northwestern end of the map lies Gloomrot. This area is split into 2 halves, the northern higher level region and the southern lower level. The enemies here are local industry workers, soldiers, and mutants. The northeastern end of the map is the Cursed Forest, home to giant spiders, toads, lurkers, and ghosts. This area has a mist that closes in and blinds you if you aren't clad in the proper cloak. At the western end of the map lies the Silverlight Hills, home to the city Brighthaven. Outside of this, there are army camps, a large silver mine, vineyards, and harpy nests. The enemies here are mostly army soldiers and harpies. That said, there are 2 darkened areas on the map that look primed for expansion. What we'll see here, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it. With the world as it is covered, let's look at what you can build in the world by doing a quick tour of one of my castles. Alright, let's take a look. Now I'm going to have to cross this carefully. Good chance to show you what the sun does. Now, it's not going to burn me immediately. I am a vampire, and I shouldn't be out in the sun, but it doesn't kill me immediately. It just gets to a point where it starts hurting, and then I have to go back into the shade. This is based on your resistances: sun, garlic, fire, holy, and silver. All these things are things that can damage you. Now, the sun, anytime you build up your sun resistance, it means you get to spend more time in the sun before it actually starts to kill you. So, anyway, though, now that I'm in the shade, good to go again. Alright, let's take a look at the castle. So, there's a patio area out here. Planted some trees. You can also see that they've added a good amount of variety. I mean, all this stuff out here is vanilla stuff added to the game. Now, I do have some cosmetics on. Well, one cosmetic on specifically, this mask. That is from a DLC that I purchased. I like the game enough that I thought, you know what, I'm going to support these guys by buying one of these cosmetic DLCs, which currently there are 3. And again, it's all cosmetic stuff. It doesn't actually provide you any bonus in the game. So I think that's the way to do it. But anyway, let's go ahead and head in here. We got the entry hall here, staircase going up, but we're going to take a look at the first floor first. Now, there is a minor bug here. I got some crows that are spawning in here. Like, they're supposed to spawn if this is outside. You can also see some plants sticking through the floor right there that should not be there, but anyway, coming in here, we have the jewel crafting chamber. The artisan tables where you craft jewelry. The jewel crafting tables where you craft jewels. Those are things to do some minor bonuses and boosts to your existing spells. If we take a look at the magic here, you can see that they've got these little gems attached to them and stuff like that. So, coming over here, this is where you craft better gems from your existing gems. And along with that, you can make this siege golem stone. Like I said, I haven't done anything with PvP, but this is something you would make for PvP. Storage. And this is a great part of the game, I should have mentioned earlier. This game has an amazing inventory system. So let's say I just move some stuff around here and it's not looking great, right? Sort. Now, obviously, that's not a huge thing. A lot of games have sort buttons. I'm looking at you, Valheim. Maybe you fixed it. I don't know. I saw there was a patch recently, so I'm hoping they did something with that. But if I open this up and you see I've got this stuff in here, well, I could just right-click it and put it in there, or I could hit compulsively count. And it takes every item that's within my inventory and throws it into the chest if that chest already has another version of that item within it. So, excellent work there. This is just jewels. Coming in here, we have the tailoring room. The tanneries, where you craft leather. This is where you craft actual armor, the tailoring bench. The leather crafting station, leather working station, I guess, you make bags and saddles. The looms, where I'm crafting actual cloth, silk, and thread, and stuff like that. And if we come through here, this is also where I store materials for that stuff. Here's the heart chamber for the castle. The castle heart here is level 4. I've not beaten the game, so I've not gotten up to level 5. I would have to get some power cores, as you can see there, from the upgrade that I do not have. Now, if I upgrade it, that gives me more floors that I can build, not vertically, but basically every chunk of the map. Let's open this up. I don't have actual materials, but each one of these rectangles, these squares, is a floor in terms of what this is talking about here for floors. Now, I can build up to 260 currently. With an upgraded castle heart, I could build more, but again, I don't have power cores yet. Now, if we come over here, we got blood. I'll talk, well, I've already talked about blood. So, blood essence, this is the most basic thing. Then you have greater blood essence, primal blood essence, and then you have a whole bunch of hearts. Hearts can be processed into blood or consumed directly, and there are some recipes, I think, that use hearts. I can't remember specifically. I know to make some, the greater blood essence, for example, you have to use these unsullied hearts. Bones. Over in here, we have the workshop. So we've got grinders. I was making pollen to use to make thread. But along with that, I can make bricks and these stone bodies that you use to make statues. Make some gem dust, some grave dust, and some spectral dust. The woodworking bench is where you can make picture frames, and I'll show you, painting frames, I should say. Sculptured wood, which you use to make furniture, and fishing poles. Fishing poles, there is fishing in the game, it's very minor. These little bubbling pools, you right-click on them while holding the fishing rod, and then right-click again when it jumps. Sawmills already talked about, but you can see there are multiple types of wood, and that along with that you can even make the reinforced plank here, which is how you make some weapons and pieces of furniture. The Devourer will take old items that you don't need anymore, and it will convert them into their base materials. In this case, I had some research books that I didn't need, so I dropped them in here. They spit out scrolls. Got a whole bunch of sawdust, stone dust, and just raw materials in here as well. Okay. Coming on over into the forge, I believe. By the way, you don't actually have to put a door in the doorway. You simply have to have a doorway in order to form different rooms. So I thought that was pretty neat. Let's go beginning to end in terms of level of workbench. Simple workbench, this is the very first one you get. You can make some bone armor and weapons, some really simple copper weapons, and some armor. Now you also have the ability to make these keys, which are used in PvP for capturing castles. Again, haven't done any PvP. Now coming back over this way, we have the smithy. The smithy is used to make iron weapons, merciless iron weapons. These are just upgraded versions of the existing weapons, as you can see. An iron mace takes iron and planks, while a merciless iron mace takes an iron mace along with a gem, some greater blood essence, and some reinforced planks. So you see how that works. Now then, we can take a look over here at the Ancestral Forge. This is where you take shattered items and you use it to apply their effect to an existing weapon. So let's grab the Unfeeling Harvester here. Now if I throw this thing in there, and if I had a Merciless Iron Reaper, I could combine it with 6 Radium Alloy and a Greater Blood Essence to increase the effect of that swing there. Now, I'll show you more of this in the combat, but the weapon attacks are like this for the mace and that. But each weapon type has its own specific attacks. As you can see here with the sword, for example, I can do this or that, which throws enemies up in the air when it hits them, stuff like that. So along with that, we have the anvil. This is where you make dark silver weaponry. This is currently, well, this is the prerequisite to the highest level existing weaponry at the moment, as far as I know. Dark silver then turns into sanguine stuff. I don't have the actual ability to make sanguine armor, or sorry, sanguine weapons yet, but this is where it will be made. And again, another castle key. Okay, so this is the fabricator. Use it to make canisters to pick up mutagenic goo, but along with that you can make power cores, EMP, coins, all that stuff. And the recipes that are grayed out are recipes I do not currently have, but it does still show you what they are so you know going forward. Now over here we have furnaces, which are currently making dark silver ingots, but along with that you can see I recently made some sulfur. This is where you cook your copper, your iron, your glass, your whetstones, bottles, scourge stones, radium alloy, all that. Okay, so if we come through here, we've toured the ground floor, so we could either head up the stairs, or we could go ahead and use the in-room teleporter here. So this is the way gate, this is how you get from place to place, but within the castle itself you have teleporters. So you can see I'm now here, up on the second floor. It doesn't have to be placed directly above the other one, as you can see with the yellow one here. I actually moved a little bit laterally, but you can move them wherever you want them. I just thought that was a neat little thing there. This is my brother-in-law. He's, whenever you're not playing the game, your body just kind of floats there like that. Coming in here, we've got paper press, and you can see I've got some paper, some scrolls, and if I come all the way over here, some schematics, and along with that, some books that I can use as soon as I get the Athenaeum, because you can see over here I've got the study desk, or sorry, research desk, and I've got these cosmetics and flooring items, and then along with that I've got some armor, some weapons, some jewelry, and some consumables. Again, that's the most basic research desk, but if I come over this way, we've got the study. Now in the study we've got again 2 more floors, but along with that more cosmetics and containers as well. And if we go down here, more armor, more weapons, more jewelry, and more consumables. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and head across the hall to the alchemy lab. Now this stuff here, this is all DLC cosmetic stuff right here at the door. And along with that, the carpet and the lights. So, alchemy table here where you brew your potions and you make your explosives. The explosives really aren't that useful. I guess maybe for PvP they are, but if I need to smash a giant vein of materials, I just turn into a bear and I hit the ground. As such. Now, let's go ahead and check out the water here, which you use to make potions. I made this little water source. Along with that, blood presses, where you turn rats into blood, fish into oil and bones, hearts into blood essence, and then blood essence into blood essence. you can see. Okay, now along with that we have a vermin nest. This is where you can actually summon in rats and giant rats and spiders and all kinds of stuff like that. This one right here is actually a boss, the putrid rat. This one is a pain in the ass to kill. But you get rat form out of it, which means you can run around without having to worry so much about being seen, because you're just a rat, right? Now, along with that, there's also wolf form. This is actually the first spell you get from killing your first boss, and it means you move faster. So that's the main thing there. There's also toad form, which I currently don't yet have, and I think bat form as well, which I also don't yet have. Now out here we have the herb garden, where I have planted all these different herbs to be picked, including some ghost shrooms, some, what's this, plague blossom? What's this called again? 1 second. It's one thing at a time, just like this. There we go, plague briar. Whereas if I also do this, then I mass collect, right? Anyway. Okay, so that's all that out there. Let's go ahead and go through here, because there's this little corner room over here. Okay. Nothing really, I don't really know what to do with this room just yet, so it's just like this. Coming in here, though, we have the dining room. Again, entirely cosmetic. You can't even use the furniture, unfortunately. I'm hoping that they remedy that at some point in the future, but I thought this room looked pretty neat. Over here, I've got the blood case, where we keep all the blood we need, along with some fish and rats and and gruel, because if we come over in here, this is the kitchen, also known as the prison. This is my nun, my villager, and my rogue over here, militia crossbowman. You can, of course, come in here, take their blood, extract blood essence, feed them. You got to keep their health up so they don't die when you're drawing the blood. You also have to keep the misery down, because the higher the misery, the more damage you do every time you draw blood. So that's always a concern. Okay, coming over in here. I realized I was going to show you how the paintings worked. So let's go ahead and go to decoration, paintings, and I'll just find... Let's just go ahead and go through one by one here. Okay. You can see how simple this... oh, I just put it in the wrong room. How simple this whole system works, though, right? Just put it right there behind those. What was the last one I did? I think the one previous to that. So there we go. Yeah. Let's go ahead and head back up. Okay, we're on the top floor here. This is the crypt and the throne room. So all my servants are currently out doing things. These are their coffins, though, where they live when they're not out on mission. Along with that, we got storage here for some general items, bags, cosmetics. These are smaller bags than my current bags. Yeah, I've got medium bags except for my coin bag. I'll have to get a new one of that. An old saddle there. Some old weapons that I don't use anymore. And a whole bunch of copper coins, and then silver and golden sun coins, or gold sun, whatever. Castle Throne. This is where you order your minions around. Now again, like I said, they're already on missions. Oh, don't want to cancel that. They're going to be out for the next 20 hours, 51 minutes. Now, that's real time. So if I shut the game down, that keeps on going. That didn't used to be the case, as far as I remember. It would be actually only when you were in-game, so it was kind of crazy to just try to send people out for that long. Okay, a little bit of a garden area up here. This mist brazier burns bones to create a cloud of mist that makes it so that you're not constantly in danger of being hurt by the sun. We got the cemetery back here with these tombs where you can put specific flowers and gem dust. And in the end, you get these ghosts or skeletons to form, and you can kill them to get their loot. They don't limit you on being able to plant trees up here, which is nice, because, I mean, I am on the 3rd floor of a castle. So it'd be kind of a bad idea. But anyway, wouldn't want it growing down through the walls. Anyway, we got this garden up here. Like I said, it's not... I wouldn't say this area is completely finished, but it's good enough. This area really needs more work. And here we are back in the grand staircase area. And this is where I store fiber and seeds. Now, one of my favorite little bits of the game is when you come up to a ledge, you can just press shift and jump all the way down. I think that's a really cool mechanic, but... yeah... There's some spiders that spawned where they're not supposed to. Again, you're indoors now. Stop doing that. But, yeah. I think that's enough on my castle, so let me show you some basic combat here. Okay, so we're here in the Dunley Farmlands, just outside of my brother-in-law's brother's castle. And, I'm going to show you a little bit of the combat here. Not too much. I'm not terribly amazing at the combat, but I'm passable, so... I'll show you what, and this will go to show exactly what I mean in terms of like ARPG. When I say it's a semi-ARPG, I feel that it's more difficult than your typical ARPG. Like, what I mean by that is Titan Quest, Grim Dawn, Diablo, you're killing waves of enemies that come in with relatively no concern. In this case, that'll still be the case here because these guys are relatively weak compared to me, much lower level than I am. Let's go ahead and jump off the horse here, and I can show you some of the moves here. So I'm carrying a spear, which I already showed you previously in the castle tour, how the sword and the mace works, but with this I can have these moves. That one was actually supposed to pull him towards me, but he was already dead by that point. So these guys are dead, they drop their loot, and I'm actually going to drink that potion, which will increase my resistance to the sun. Let's actually take a look at how much that did that. Increased it by 60%, that's pretty impressive. Let's see exactly what we're doing here. Wow, okay. Alright. Yes, this horse was a normal horse until I converted it into a vampire horse, and now it's got a cosmetic on it from that DLC that I purchased, so... Okay, let's take a look over here. I think there's a boss in here. Indeed there is, I'll show you that real quick. I'll switch over to the Great Sword, and let me change my spells real quick. Actually, let's back up a little bit and so nothing comes near us while I talk about magic. Okay, you have 6 types of magic: Blood, Chaos, Unholy, Illusion, Frost, and Storm. Now, my personal favorite spells are the Bone Explosion and the Death Knight. I'll show you why here in just a minute, but you've got different versions of all these spells. So you've got like a defensive spell here in terms of the Ward of the Damned, whereas in Chaos you have Chaos Barrier. In Blood you have, really, it's more so this Blood Right thing that actually does more so what that kind of stuff is. Same sort of thing here, Phantom Aegis. In Frost you have specifically the Frost Barrier. I don't have the defensive thing for Storm yet, I don't think, but again, like I've said, I haven't beaten the game, so there are still additional spells that I haven't gotten. Now, the boss that's right up in here... Okay. These guys chose death. There we go. What the heck is up with this patrol right here? I don't know what they're up to. Oh, Vincent the Frostbringer.
You're going to have to get through me.
So yeah, they've got little voice lines they use and stuff. They've got special abilities. In this case, this guy is all about frost. Let's use my special attack. The ultimate attack or whatever. I got that from killing like an abbot of a monastery. Your guy is not a good guy, if that's not clear. You're literally trying to re-enslave the world of vampires. That's the whole point of your existence. I am letting myself be frozen way more than I should be. See, I could have fed off of him, but I also used it as just an instant kill. Rather than let this guy get close to me, I'm going to use some ranged weapons on him. Oh. Now, halfway through the fight, he drops some blood. Now you can see he was using that frost shield, which means he's likely the boss that drops that.
I feel a chill coming up.
Damn, he dodged my Death Knight. Now I got him with the Death Knight. Now I can extract his V-blood.
You won't get away with this.
Now, I'd already killed him. The nice thing is it also destroys all the trees in the area, so it's a real quick way of harvesting wood. But if we take a look here at the V-blood, you can see here your first enemy, the Alpha Wolf, and it goes through all these different enemies. These guys are all in the forest. Or the woods, I mean. This is the Dunley Farmlands group here. You can see Vincent the Frostbringer right there, in fact. Yep, you can see Frost Barrier, that's the spell that he gave me. He also gave me the ability to make prison cells, prison framework door, and then along with that, the recipe for the reinforced plank, which I used to make weapons. So that was nice of him. Now if we keep on scrolling up here, we get to the Cursed... No, this is Lower Gloomrot. This is the Cursed Forest. These two, then these three, and this last one right here. And then we get all the way up here and we get to the Silverlight Hills. And then along with that, if we go even further up, then we get to Northern Gloomrot. Along with that, there's... This one is in the Hallowed Mountains. And then, yeah, Northern Gloomrot for this one. And this one is the Silverlight Hills. So it kind of gets mixed as you get higher. There's also a Silverlight Hills boss further down here that I didn't... Or not Silverlight Hills. Hallowed Mountains boss that I didn't mention earlier. Where is he? There he is. Frostmaw the Mountain Terror. Anyway, though, I think that gives you some basic look at the combat here. I mean, like I showed you, each type of weapon has its own special attack. I didn't have a couple of them here. Axes, slashers, and scythes. They all have interesting abilities. They all have their different uses. And different bosses are going to be weaker to different things. Like this boss, like I showed you, generally should be avoided. The physical contact should be avoided because he's going to freeze you. Now, I didn't do a very good job of avoiding that, but hopefully it shows you what you can do if you're better at this than me, which you probably are. I simply, more so than anything, enjoy the building and crafting gear and all that kind of crap. Okay, moon has risen again. That's the nice thing, is night lasts 2/3 of the day. Now, I think you can even alter that probably in server settings to make it last even longer, but whatever. Oh, the horse. Now, the horse is not far, my horse is not far from me, but I can also just go ahead and summon it. And while my horse can also be damaged, I can also just resurrect it at will. And you can see here, here's Metzger, which means butcher in German. Let's go ahead and head up this way. And yeah, I hope that really shows you what you need to see about the combat. Let's get back to the video. Alright, I have only a couple negative comments on the game. First, there's an annoying mechanic in which some items cannot be taken through waygates. Well, this has improved since last December. There are too many items that have to be carried on foot or on horseback from location to location. All this really does is waste the player's time. Along with that, this is not my first castle. That castle was destroyed by the devs. When the Gloomrot content was added to the game earlier this year, the world map was revised, and as such the devs chose to simply wipe the worlds. I understand that this game is in early access, but it was really disheartening when the world I'd built up with my brother-in-law and his brother in our Friday night sessions over the course of a few months was utterly wiped out. It wasn't just that our castles were gone, our characters were erased. If the worlds are wiped again, I'll either stop playing altogether or I'll simply wait for the final launch of the game. Lastly, I want to commend the devs for making low-level areas just as important as late-game areas. For example, to make late-game spectral dust, one needs Ghost Crystal, a late-game material, and Scourge Stones, a mid-game material, which can be crafted using Whetstones and Grave Dust, early-game materials. Alright, I think that's enough on V Rising. Aside from the mentioned loss of progress, I've had nothing but good times with this game, and I highly recommend it. With that said, this has been the Resolute Cartographer. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.